This is your host, Barbara Jean Lindsay, and welcome to the Cosmic Oracle Show. It's Tuesday, January 31st, and we're coming to you live from Altadena, California. And we have in the house today, we have our lovely producer, Patrick English. How you doing, Patrick?
Hi, dear. How are you? Hope you're good. Thank you.
I'm hanging in there this morning. I've been up really early this morning, but I'm in still
Oh,
kind of a,
too.
a yeah, yeah. I'm in kind of a little bit of a trance state still. Maybe I didn't quite go out of it. As I was reading our guest today, we have HALO QUIN with us. We'll be interviewing her, and she will be talking about your fairy heart and about what it means to be fae and unlock your natural power and tap into your natural magic and become the fae you are. So we have her here today. Hello, hello, Halo.
Hello, Barbara.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm here.
Uh,
The sun is actually just setting where I am, so completely the other end of the day.
So where are you? Where are you calling from today?
From Wild West Wales, and it's very wet out at the moment in the UK.
It's very green. I can see the green.
Oh, yes, very, very green. Very green.
Well, we will be talking about that green, won't we? And about the green heart. I remember reading and you talking about writing about the green heart of the fae. So
Indeed, indeed.
yeah. But before we get on to our interview, there's a few things we'd like to talk about to our listeners. If you want to call in and ask Halo a question, we do have a number you can call into and get in line, but remember to mute yourself. And what's that number, Patrick?
It is 337-335-0085.
Okay, so call that number and get in line, and remember to mute yourself with a question from Halo. And can you tell us where are we on our donations? Again, we talked earlier. We have some good news, but we can still use some more donations, of course.
Well, our monthly goal is 2,800, and I am showing 2,850. So we have exceeded the goal by $50. Yes, Jane. It's scratching our way up the whole month. But we did it. It's like playing chicken all month, but we pulled it off. And thank you to everybody who has donated. And please continue to donate. Let us get set in for the next month. So, we could easily be 4 months ahead, easily.
Yeah.
Please donate. We have so many offers. Just go to the main page and see them.
Yep. And we are the number one radio station, internet radio station in the world, and we are 100% listener supported. So you are the reason for our success. And if you want to keep us on the air and out of stress, right, Patrick?
Yeah. Keep our
Let's get
blood pressure down.
Then if you would just go ahead and go to freedomslips.com and find that support button. It's really easy, and there's a whole list of ways that you can support and get really good value for your donation.
Yeah, we're working here. We have visions of soup lines.
Well, we'll have to ask Haley for a fairy, a fae blessing for the station. What do you think about that, Haley?
Yeah. Yeah, sure, no worries.
Okay. So I think we'll just go ahead from here and just start right in. I did, before we go, want to talk about stopping the Dakota Access Pipeline, and I'm still involved with that. And there is a walk on this Sunday. Someone wrote in, and I will be going to that. So I'll be letting you know how that went. They expect they've asked 18,000 people to go, so we'll see. So that'll be here on Sunday at 10 o'clock at Pershing Square in Los Angeles. So I'll let you know what I find out, what's going on there. And Standing Rock still needs your donations. So you can go to their Facebook page, Standing Rock Stone Camp, and make a donation there to get them through the winter. They need more wood and blankets and that sort of thing. So if you would like to give, they could really use it at the Standing Rock Sioux tribal government, and so they can continue to put public pressure onto doing the right thing here and stopping these pipelines once and for all. So it's crucial now, so don't forget about them. They're standing up and protecting our water. So thank you in advance for finding that website and checking it out and making your voice count. So, all right. So without further ado, if I had a drum roll, I would drum roll for you. Halo. We have now Halo Quinn, and talking to us today about the Fae. I've been working on this for a while. You know, my daughter's name is Melody Fae, and she was named after my favorite aunt, Flora Fae.
My mom's name was Faye.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And so, you know, it's interesting that,
Oh,
you know, we go ahead, Patrick.
I said no E, just F-A-Y.
Yeah, and so it's, you know, we're that part of us that we might have lost in this industrial age that has come upon us for so long, that was still there in our heritage if we look for it. So can you tell us about how you got into working with the Fae?
I can, yeah. Although it's going to sound cliched, but I've always done it. It's the one part of my practice now that has always been consistent, right from when I was too small to remember. I'd go off and disappear into the side of the garden, dig around in under the trees and things, looking for fairies. And it was well known throughout my school, throughout my family, that was what I would do. And it's there's a funny story. Well, I find it fun. When I was about 7 or 8 at school, I found a little silver ring with stars cut into it, and it fit me perfectly. And I took it to my teacher and I said, I found this ring. And he said, well, you must go around all of the classrooms and ask there if anyone has lost a silver ring. And if anyone can describe it to you and say, yes, I've lost a ring, it looks like this, then it's theirs and you have to give it to them. But if no one can describe it to you, then you know it was a gift from the fairies. And I went from classroom to classroom, and classroom to classroom, and I still have that ring today. So I held on to that. I knew that they were there. That was their sign to me that they were there, that they'd be my guiding star, and they always have been. When I got to be about 10 or 11, a friend of mine was talking about ghosts, and I got very, very curious. And I've always been a bookish kind of person. I've always loved books, the magic of words in the pages. And so I went to the library, and I found things on witchcraft and paganism and things there, and I started digging around in there. And that became my religious path. But underlying all of it was always that connection and my relationship to the Fae. And that through the religious side of it, the pagan side of it, I got to formalize that and make it stronger. But yeah, for me, it's always been there.
So, Halo, did you grow up in Wales? I'm just curious.
I grew up in southwest England. So, do you know Avebury?
More or less. It's in Wiltshire.
More or less,
right?
yeah. It's it's a huge stone circle. It's about an hour away from Stonehenge.
Yes, Wiltshire.
I grew up just down the road from there. Yeah, Wiltshire.
Okay, that's what I know that. I read a lot of Thomas Hardy. I know that whole area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been to Avebury many times, so I'm familiar. I can see it right now, and I was there with a friend of mine who was a guide at the time, and we walked through the stones there. And I think I told you this story, and we were walking up and up over. There's a small mound there, but we could hear this music, and there was a wedding, and you could hear flute music and people laughing, but it was very light. It wasn't very loud. And as we went up over the hill, we thought for sure we would be coming onto this wedding party, but there was no one there.
Some of the better Irish reels have been written that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, Patrick is a musician and has traveled through the world, and so he has that part of him that's probably very Fae, Patrick.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. A bard.
Right.
So as you got a little bit older and you went on this quest to discover the Fae and discover where they are in our society, and did you find a lot of it hidden? And so part of your work is to help open that up to people who aren't familiar with this, or open their power, open their heart.
So what I found is that it's always very present, but just under the surface. So we have a modern image of the Victoriana fairies, the little flower fairies that Mary Cecily Barker popularized, those sorts of things, and the ones you see, the statues in the shops with the stripy socks, and they're all very pretty. But that's sort of the symbol of them that's acceptable in our culture. And it never felt like the whole story to me. Whereas, but we couldn't, as a society, we can't entirely get away from it because it's a part of us. So what I found is that for me and for most people, it's quite a difficult thing to talk about, because it's so fundamental, it's so primal and instinctive, and you start to talk about it and it sounds like you're sort of making light of things, because all we have left in our language when we say fairies are these images of little flower fairies that are diminutive and just sort of hide away.
Yeah, like those photographs that the girls took of the fairies in the Victorian age, and that was the rage, and
that's the one.
That's the one.
That's the one. I think actually those girls were onto something, in that they had that sort of sense of playfulness and the concept, the idea, the feeling of magic, and they played a huge trick on so many people, and so many people were taken in. Arthur Conan Doyle wrote quite a long piece on the reality of it and why this was not a fake, because actually that magic is so important to us. It's something that we desperately need, and they, I reckon, were actually prompted by the Fae themselves, the true Fae, the wild magic, to do that, to play that trick, to play those games, to help to bring those ideas and those feelings and that magic back into consciousness a bit more.
And so as a culture, we've stepped away from it, and so you started to explore it, and as you're starting to develop a relationship with the Fae, and so before we go there, what is the Fae? What is the Fae to you? That if you were to
sure
your philosophy of the Fae, the philosophy, please.
Sure. So I read a lot of stories. I'm a storyteller alongside the other things that I do. And so I investigate a lot of stories. And when you read the stories of the Fae, you start to notice that there are patterns. There are clues as to their nature. They're like us but different. They're often attached to certain places. They're connected to the natural world. They behave in slightly odd ways, and you start to realize as you read the stories, or for me it resonated very, very clearly, that they are part of
the natural world, and the way that the stories write about the human interactions with the Fae mirrors the interactions between humans and the non-human world around us. And so I delved into that with that in mind and followed the feeling of what I was finding. So I'd be going and sitting under the trees and reading poems to them, and then feeling them all come around and these bright spirits appearing. And they'd be there, and I'd go, well, okay, I can feel them. They're spirits. They're there. They're not just ideas. Where do they come from? And the stories and the feeling all sort of wove together to go, well, they are the consciousness of the wild magic, the untamed magic of the natural world. Most often we associate them, we connect with them in the green world here, but they're in the streams and things as well. And then what I came to realize was that the reason that we call to them and they call to us is because we're a part of nature ourselves. And the bit of us that takes us away from that, the bit of us that sort of we've tamed ourselves in many ways. We've tamed ourselves so that we can get through 9 to 5 days doing the same thing day in, day out, working for someone else, working for abstract things. We can get through those things because we've tamed ourselves. And the bits of us that we've tamed hides the heart of us, which is actually wild, untamed magic, part of nature.
And if we can get to that point and unbridle that,
then we reconnect with them.
Yeah, and that's where it all happens, right?
Yeah. And so this is why we don't have, you can't say, well, a fairy is this, because a fairy is not a solid thing. They're not an embodied thing like us. They're bigger and more amorphous, shapeshifters.
Mm-hmm. Have you had them actually come in just for a second and then go out? Or the longer you work with them, are you able to hold them here a little longer because of your background with them and building a relationship with them?
To be honest, it's not so much that I summon them here and hold them here, as I shift my awareness and step more into the places where they are. I open to being aware of them. And there's more, they have more of a presence in like forests and wildwoods and even parks, by rivers, because there's a lot of free-flowing energy there. There's more of a stronger presence there than there is, say, in the city. But I've encountered fairy beings deep in the heart of Nottingham, the home of Robin Hood, but the city itself, not the forest, in the city. In, say, like the nightclub, there's Rock City, a very famous nightclub, and me and my now husband, we went to see Gary Newman play there. And above the crowd, playing on the energies that was rolling through the space, were these beings, were these fae beings, these spirits, just going, yeah, no, we're here too. So
can you describe them to us? What that felt like, or what you saw?
I can try.
Okay.
So the way that I encounter them, I have a feeling of the energy, and sometimes there are very, very clear visuals that go with that, and sometimes it feels like I'm interpreting the energy with a visual. But it's a particular type of energy that feels like delight, and like a kind of a thrill. Like being more alive. Do you know when you get those times when you're just, something so wonderful is happening and you're free, you've got the space that you need to move freely and to be out in the world, and you just suddenly feel so alive and so happy?
Yes.
Yeah, it's an energy like that. With that edge of,
like a let go.
Yeah, but it's not that I'm generating it, it's that I feel it outside and running through me, and it's often concentrated in certain places. And if I start to see things, then it's like very bright points of light that have kind of a hazy shape around them. And then I'll start to sort of concentrate and go, okay, let my conscious mind give me an interface, a way of interacting. How do they want me to see them? How do they want me to interact with them? What kind of relationship do we want to have with each other? And then I get more solid images of that allow me to interact with them more like I would talk to you.
Mm-hmm. And so let's say you're walking, like today I'm looking out of the window and all I see is green. And sometimes when I'm walking in the backyard, I just moved here and I said hello to the Fae and I gave them some milk and honey and wine mixture as
Mm-hmm.
a hello on the altar out there. And you could feel the leaves start to move a little and you could hear them kind of start to say, hey, how are you? Hello, kind of like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
And they actually start to move a little bit and you can kind of so it's a feeling more than for me I'm like with the being a psychic is more of a feeling and seeing them, but it's like you're talking, it's almost like on a parallel universe to this where you step over, would that how you say it, to beckon over or not?
Kind of. I mean,
Mm,
that's the language we use of sort of worlds layering over each other and other worlds is easy language to use, and it makes it sound like we step from one place to another. But actually, for me, and I think that when we get more used to working in these ways, we're not very good at it as a culture. We don't really have the language that allows us to explain it very well. But for me, it's more like everything's on a spectrum of frequencies, and the physical realm is a particularly dense part of that spectrum, and then you have sort of an emotional realm is a sort of slightly less dense, and the mental realm is slightly less dense, and there's a sort of what we sort of start to lump everything else in as spiritual. There's kind of gradations in there, and the Fae kind of overlap almost down to just touching the physical
mm,
up into parts of the spiritual, whereas we overlap from the physical right the way up to that point. They go a bit higher than we do, and we go all the way, or almost as high as they do. And then the ancestors sort of come out of the. Does that sort of make sense
that makes
as
total
an image?
sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
so the more you can up your vibration and it has to do the connection with the heart. You can't think it, right? You have
Very
to
much so.
be it. You have to be
Very
it or
much so.
feel it, right? And
Hence the
be in it.
green heart.
Yeah. And so does it help to make it an intention? So we have kind of an idea of what that they were in the past and what
Yeah.
you've developed over these years in your relationship with the Fae.
hmm
And you found that that's very different than what it's not so solid at all, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
And so,
that's sort of part of it, is that we make an intention, and then we open our awareness, we open our hearts and ourselves, our senses, to the possibility of that sense of wonder and aliveness that lets us open to these spirits, and to these beings, to these frequencies. Of course, with the caveats of making sure that you've got protections in place, because like any part of the wild world, they're not all going to be. It's not all going to be safe.
okay. So let's go from there. If you're going to, the
hmm
listeners want to have more of a relationship with the Fae, and how would they go about doing that? Then would they, I read in your book, you have a wonderful book that details if you want to have a relationship with the Faes, then they should read your book for sure. And that is Pagan Portals, Your Fairy Magic. Discover what it means to be Fae and unlock your natural power.
That's the one.
So they can use that as a key to
Yeah.
unlock that door, and you have it all laid out beautifully of how to develop this relationship. So
Thank you.
as we
But I'd
start,
like to get people started. Yeah, definitely.
yeah, as we
Yeah.
get started, so we could talk about, let's talk about protection. That's the first thing that stops people, right? They go, well, that I don't know. It's a world I don't know. It's like going on this adventure and you don't know the end. It is out of control. So how do you work with this mystery and this out of control relationship? Because like you said, we're told to behave and stay busy and work a 9 to 5 and buy things you don't need and on and on and on and on. But if you're developing a relationship with the Fae, because they bring something for us, they have gifts for us, right?
Yes, and some of them certainly, many of them want to work with us, and my understanding from them is that this is because the more disconnected we get from our roots in their world and our shared home together in as part of nature, because we're all a part of nature, right? The further we get from that understanding, the more damage we do. And we're doing damage to ourselves, we're doing damage to the earth and to the natural world. And that's having an effect on them. So,
of course. And that's like in the, I don't know, for the Hobbit, where the fairies, I remember seeing that in the movie and the fairies have to leave and I just cried like a baby,
Yeah.
I
And
didn't want him to leave. I didn't want that magic to leave, to go away.
No, and I think what's really happening fundamentally is that we're cutting ourselves off from a part of ourselves and a part of the world that is it's our birthright. It's part of what we are. And they're there to help us come back. Those that want to work with us are coming to help us get back to that. So from a starting perspective, one of the best things that you can do to be safe in this, start out with a clear sense of who you are, is often the best thing to do. So like if you were to go walking out in the woods, you'd put on your walking boots, and you'd put on a waterproof coat and you'd take some water and you'd be prepared for it. You'd know what you were going into, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're going to start branching out and opening an awareness to other parts of our world, the spirit parts of our world, you need to know the equivalent of what putting your boots on looks like and putting your coat on looks like and what sort of snacks to take. And the very, very simple thing to do, there are two things I'd recommend people start with. One is to ask for help. So there's going to be a spirit that's there spirits that are around that are wanting to support you, your guide, your ancestors, a fae that wants to help you do this work, and they can't actually do very much until you ask them. You don't even have to know who they are. You just have to actually make the intention and say, look, I'm going to do this. I need some help. I need some guidance. Can you make sure I don't fall off the path when I'm going out these places, and make sure I don't annoy anyone before I'm ready to know what I'm doing. So you've got a guide with you into these other worlds. And they can help you then put on the right coat. The other side of that is the white light or gold light meditation, and there's shielding protection visualizations that you can do that are quite common throughout things. So shall I describe it in a bit of detail for people?
Yes, and if you wanted to bring us through that, I was thinking today we'll just bring people through your portal, your fairy portal, and have them actually have an experience, not, just talking, but we could actually, if you feel comfortable, leading them through a fairy experience if they're ready. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Do you want to do that now?
Yeah, I think we'll start that now. It's 9:30, and so we have a half hour before the break. So
excellent.
24 minutes,
24 minutes.
Okay. Okay, I'll keep it a bit shorter than that then.
Okay.
So if everyone listening can just feel wherever it is you are, If it's safe to do so, it's useful to close your eyes, but if it's not safe to do so because you're driving or whatever, then please don't. But just feel the weight of your body. Feel your feet on the ground beneath you. Feel your bum on your chair if you're sat down. And just sort of feel the weight of your bones. We're going to start by getting actually grounded in this world. So we've got a good place to start. So we can all take a breath together. Breathe in and let it out. And another breath in and out. Really come back to your body and out. And as you feel yourself on the earth, let yourself start to relax a little bit. Let your bones support you as you relax. And keep breathing. So you're coming back to a sense of where and who you are physically, grounded on the earth. And we all have a natural connection to the earth, to the physical realm, because that's where we are. It's where we live. So if you ever get worried or stuck or something scares you, come back to breathing and feeling your bones and feeling your weight upon the earth. And that will bring you straight back to where you start from. Now from here, I want you to imagine, to visualize or to feel or to hear, whatever of your senses is best for imagining things. To intend. You might not get clear images, but you can intend for a clear light to start pouring down like a waterfall or a shower over your head. And as it pours down from the stars over your head, and it washes away anything that's not you, anything that you don't need to be carrying with you at the moment. This light flows all the way over your body, and you keep breathing, and it washes all the way behind you, to either side of you, down the front of you, all the way down into the earth, washing away anything that's not you, that doesn't belong to you. You keep breathing as those things that you've been carrying, the stresses and tensions, just fall away. And it washes away anything that you don't need right now. And it washes it into the earth, where the earth can compost it. It can take all of that rubbish and transform it in the way that the earth does best. And breathe deeply and feel your feet on the floor, feel your weight on the earth. And now the light begins to change slightly. It's not so much a waterfall as it is a stream, as it is a beam of light, and it begins to surround you and wrap itself around you, and from white it starts to turn golden. And it's glowing around you into an egg, into a sphere that surrounds you, that reaches out on all sides. As you breathe, you feel that light flow down and down, around underneath your feet and around you. It swirls around you like a golden white mist, golden white light like sunlight. And at the edges of the shape it makes, it begins to harden into a shell, a translucent shell. And this shell goes all the way around you, and it's like a membrane that lets in the things that you want to let in and keeps out the things that you don't. And it goes all the way from above you, all the way round, all behind you and in front of you and underneath you, until you are stood in a glowing sphere or egg of golden white light, with a shield made of this membrane around the outside. Now feel your heart. You might want to place your hand on your heart. And take a breath. And as you breathe out, just feel your heart underneath your hand, in your chest. And see your heart glowing like a green light. And it might only be a small light, or it could be quite large. Now with each breath, I want you to breathe in light into that light in your heart. Breathe in and let it grow bigger and brighter. And it is a green light in your chest that with every breath fills with more light and grows bigger and brighter. With every breath it grows bigger and brighter, this green light opening up. And that light begins to spill out through your chest until it fills the edges of your chest and fills your body, your torso. And this is your heart opening. And you are breathing in a protective space, in your own shield, clean and clear and open. And you can take yourself to this state of being whenever you choose. And keep breathing. And now if you're ready to join me, imagine yourself in your sphere, in your egg of gold and white protective light, just outside your shield. From the earth, green mists begin to rise. Thick green mists bubble up from the earth around your shield. They bubble up and rise so thick you can't see through them. The green mists grow and grow and grow until they spill over the top of your shield, until you are completely surrounded in the green mists of fairy. And you feel yourself lifted slightly from where you are and turned slightly, just a quarter turn to the left. And this is shifting your vibrations into a slightly different place to where you are normally. And the mists begin to clear. And as they do, you see you're not where you were. You're at a crossroads in a forest. And standing at the crossroads with you is a fairy being, tall and shining, who has come to guide you today. And they reach out their hand, and in it is a rose. And if you choose to accept, if you choose to take the rose they offer you, then you will always have a key. You will always have an entry, a way in to their world. And if you're not feeling ready for that, then you don't need to. Just say to them, not now, I can't right now. And they turn to walk down one of the paths, beckoning you to follow. And you follow them down the path, walking behind them. And they lead you over a bridge under which a clear stream runs. And you pause on the bridge and you can hear the music of the stream, clear and bright. And you walk on behind your guide. Take note of the landscape that you walk through. Take note of any sounds or sights that you see. or that you feel. You may just have a feeling of what's happening. Or you may have very clear images. And up ahead you see a gate in the path. You reach the gate and they push it open. And you step inside a walled garden full of roses, all colours. You see yellow roses here and pink. You see also blue and green petalled roses. And under the roses are other flowers and herbs. And in the centre of the garden is a well. And your guide takes you to it, and you peer into the waters of the well, and you see something about yourself that you are ready now to know. And from the waters rise a token of this truth. And if you're ready to accept it, then you may gather this too. Take it and hold it. And find in your other hand something that you can offer to the waters, that you can offer to the realm of fairy. It might be a pledge that you can make, a commitment, or it could just be a gift. Let it go into the water to be received by this other world. And your guide takes you back out of the garden, out through the gate that swings closed behind you, down the path that you travelled, back across the bridge with the stream full of music, and back to the crossroads, somehow faster than you travelled this way before. And at the crossroads, you turn to thank them, but they do not need to hear the words. They nod. Perhaps they say one last thing to you before you go, and the mists begin to rise. The green mists roll back up, bubble up from the earth around you. They surround you. They flow all the way up and over your head, and the land of fairy disappears. Your guide is engulfed in the mists, and you find yourself back in that golden white light, that shield clear again. And the mists lift you and turn you just a quarter turn back to the right, so you are lined back up with how you were when you left. And as the mists descend, they lower you back into your body, and you can feel your feet connect with your feet on the earth. You can feel your bones, the bones of your spirit, sinking back into the bones of your body fully. You take a breath, and the mists, the green mists of fairy, sink back into the earth, leaving you stood where you were before, where you were when you began. And take another breath and shake out your legs and your arms if you can, if it's appropriate to. Pat your body to remind yourself that you are physical. Have a stretch. And I'd recommend getting something to eat or some water to drink fairly soon, doing something sensible, normal, every day, just to make sure you're fully back. If you feel yourself drifting off, stamp your feet on the ground, say your own name 3 times, and go and get some salt. Salt's always good.
Now, what do you do with the salt? Will you just...
Oh, yeah. Place a pinch on your tongue. and the just a little bit, the taste of it brings us back, back to our physical body. So what we did there was a sort of a trip into the energy of that world, that frequency. So it feels very much like traveling into a different world, but it is just having an experience of that frequency, so that it's more easy to access when you're walking around in your everyday. So that opening of the heart, and the protective bubble, good, you can use that anytime. The opening of the heart is useful if you go out into, I'd recommend going out somewhere safe, but with as much of what we think of as nature as possible. So, you know, trees or woods or whatever. Finding somewhere safe that you can do that. Doing the white light with the shielding. And then opening your heart up. And I like to take some poetry or songs or a story and to speak it out loud then, or read it out loud to the Fae as an offering. And just see what happens, see what comes. See if you get a feeling of presences or signs, unusual activity from animals, the trees whispering to you. Just see what happens.
Well, thank you so much. I mean, for sharing that and bringing us into the realm of fairy. So the more we practice it, the more things will open up for us, and it'll become just like riding a bike, shall we say, in a way, learning how to ride a bike. So it becomes a part of our lives and a part of our world.
Yes. Very much so. I've been doing things like this for so long now that, you know, even in the middle of a city, if I take a breath and feel my feet on the floor and just shift my awareness slightly, I can take myself into that kind of space. But that has been years of practice. And it's not an easy thing to do, and not everyone does it the same way either.
It's kind of very different, but the best analogy I can come up with, like doing psychic readings. You go into a different place to gather that information and then bring that back to this world to help people.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. And that I hope some of your listeners have had the opportunity to follow us at that point, and gain something perhaps useful.
Oh, I'm sure they will. And this will be on afterwards. We'll put this in the Cosmic Oracle YouTube channel and also in the archives here at Revolution Radio. And so they can listen to this as many times as they like and go to this place.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant.
That you've opened. And so thank you so much. I feel great. How are you feeling, Yay. Patrick? Were you able to go there with us? Is he listening?
I think you're muted, Patrick.
Oh, maybe he's doing his.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I was listening along. It was a very nice guided meditation.
Really beautiful. Really beautiful. Yeah. And so when we come back from the break, and if people start, this should probably stimulate some questions or some feelings, and they can get in contact with you. What's the best way for our listeners to reach you, Halo?
Okay. I have a website. It's aworldenchanted.com. And yeah, people can contact me through there. That's got contact details on it and forms and things. So that's probably the best way. Yeah, or you can try my email address, which is HALO QUIN, HALOQUIN @gmail.com. And I'll trust that anyone who's going to contact me through your show is trustworthy.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm just kidding.
But yeah, and if if anyone wants to get a hold of me, then they're welcome to drop me a line. And I do my best to respond, but I am a PhD student, and storyteller and writing and all sorts of things. So I'm often quite up to my eyeballs in things. So sometimes it can take me a while to get back to people.
Okay, it's for them to like chill a little and be okay, right? Until you get to them. So
Yeah.
okay.
So
Well, I'm sure you'll have people contact you, and because you've opened this up for them, and it's better. You can read a books. I loved your book because it not only gives information, but it gives experiences for them to build on this relationship with the fairies. So when we come back from the break, I'd love to talk about Fairyland, if you'd like. I know you take us there, and then the Fairy Queen is something that I'd like to talk about, and also about there's other ways. I love some of your ways that you give in your book about connecting and healing our relationship with the green. And I like it. Heal our relationship with our green, the furred, fenned, and feathered siblings so we can survive the coming storms. So
yeah, that's important.
I love that. And I loved your music, the Fairy Queen. So there's some a music sample that you gave as well by Queen, right?
Oh yes, yeah.
So we can lighten things up, right? And not carry such a heavy load. It seems like that's part of what fairy's job is in some ways to to remind us that it doesn't have to be so heavy and stressful here.
Exactly.
Okay. So stay tuned and we'll be right back with Halo Quinn and we'll discuss Theosophy. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome back. This is your host, Barbara Jean Lindsay, and you're listening to the Cosmic Oracle Show. And we have with us our producer, Patrick English, and
Ooh.
and we also I'm very excited to have a beautiful, you have such a beautiful voice. And if you missed it, go back and listen to this again for those that are listening to it the first time later, because our guest, Halo Quinn, led us through a fairy our fairy world, right? Halo, where you remind us that we are magical and we are beautiful, and we are the holder of enchantment in
Yes,
sometimes a very disenchanting world. And
very,
so
very much.
yeah. And so we would also like to ask for a blessing, if we could, Halo, for the station and helping support Revolution Radio and our efforts here, and the money spent and the time and the hours. No one gets paid here. Everything is given. All the producers and all the shows and all the hosts and all the managers are all do this out of the goodness of our hearts, and no one gets paid. And so we keep this alternative internet talk radio network on the air, and our donations are the only way that we do it. 100% of the donations raised gives directly back to Revolution Radio to cover equipment bills and updating the site and all sorts of things. So we want to thank our supporters for their donations, and maybe ask for a blessing from the Fae.
Well, I can certainly offer you a blessing from myself, and perhaps they'll chip in as well. I'll ask for them to support it, because it's beautiful work that you do, and I'm honoured to be here with you today. But I can't demand that they do anything. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, of course, of course. And we will just
So
ask for a blessing if it comes,
yeah,
and if you see it, you could maybe report back to us later,
sure, sure.
what they communicated to you. So,
So I'll,
um,
shall I? Okay. So hold on a second, and I will ask for you. Hang on. Fey ones, fairy queen, lord of fairy, beautiful ones, shining ones. I ask that you bless this radio station, that you bless the people who give so lovingly from their hearts, that they give the joy that they give, the time that they give, the offering that they make to the world in order that people may be helped, and know that you love people that do that, and know that you appreciate the work that they do. I ask that you bless their work, that you help them each day, each time that they turn on their mic, each time that they open their mouths, to speak words that are enchanted and enchanting, that they may do their work with joy and delight in their hearts, that spills over into the world and helps to heal all the things that need healing, that helps to heal each heart that hears the words, so that each of those people can take out that blessing further into the world themselves. Fey ones, Queen of Fairy, Lord of the Fae, bless Revolution Radio tonight, today, and always.
thank you. Thank you so much. That was so beautiful. I could feel that. I'm sure our
Thank you.
listeners could too.
Very nice.
Thank you, Patrick.
And so I think we'd like to move on from this, and I know there's probably certain things that you would like to talk about as well. I would like to talk about the Fairy Queen, and could we start with that in Fairyland as well?
Sure, sure. Although something that you said before the break about part of the work of the Fae and part of the stuff being playfulness,
Yes.
and that sort of, yeah. So one of the things that's come out of my work with the Fae is something called the Goblin Circus, and it is a one-woman, many goblin circus, and they're in charge. I'm the ringleader because they don't like masters, so I can't be a ringmaster. I'm the ringleader. And yeah, that came out of connecting with the Fae and having that push to go, you know what, I'm quite a serious person. Everything is very serious and intense, and it must be all serious and intense, and it's amazing. I love being like that. But they just sort of pushed me towards this sort of more playful thing, and they went, go and play, go and get up and tell stories that play with things, that invite people in to build a world with you. And so I say that I went looking for fairies, and they sent me to the goblins, and the goblins wanted to play. So yeah, and that I say, sorry, you were going to say?
Oh, I was thinking of in your book, the Pagan Portals, Your Fairy Magic. You talk about leaving notes hidden. I just thought that was
Mm-hmm.
wonderful as a spirit of play.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. So you leave notes for the fairies.
Yeah, and notes to remind other people of their own possibility, and of the possibility of magic. So one of the things I've discovered over the past few years while I've been doing the Goblin Circus and taking it out, I've got a beautiful puppet. Although don't let him hear you say that. He's a griffin, and he sits on my shoulder, and his head moves, And he moves very, very much like a bird. And he's made of real fur and feathers. I adopted him, true story, completely true. I adopted him from an enchantress in Glastonbury. He was living in her attic. And he so he came and joined the circus. Yeah, and small children, like adults will do this as well, but small children, there's a certain age where they get to, where they're like, that's not real. He's not real, is he? He's not real. No, that's not real. I don't believe you. He's not. I'm like, he's a real griffin. No, he's not. He's not real. He can't be. And they're fascinated by him. They want him to be real. They want magic to be real. But they're getting to that point where they're starting to feel the pressure from the world outside to reject it. Mm-hmm. And there was one girl in particular at an event just before Yule, just before Christmas, who, her and her friends, they must have been about 7. There were 3 of them, and 2 of them were absolutely enchanted. And this one girl stood slightly to one side, and she's like, "No, I don't believe you. That's not real." And her friends started to get ever so shy about like playing, and they went off, and they came back, and she came back about half a dozen times to sort of come and look at him and go, but he's not real. And I could see how much she wanted it. And I said to her, you know, it's important to play. It's important to believe in the magic, because that's what helps you keep it alive. And you'll need that when you grow up. We all need that. It's important. Don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. And sorry?
And to hold that part is important.
It is. And I could see her taking that on board and holding on to that sort of, oh, here is a grown-up. Not that I think of myself as a grown-up, but here is a grown-up telling me that it's okay to play. And she's obviously having fun. So if it's all right for her, then maybe it'll be all right for me. And I hope that will help her as she gets older. And I've seen it with adults who have seen me going out and being silly, being the ringleader of a one-woman goblin circus, and bouncing around on the stage, telling them all sorts of weird and wonderful things about flying rabbits and acrobatic monkeys, and eat all of the sweets and then throw up on stage. It's not pretty sight, that. I can see the adults taking that sort of sense of wonder on board, just even if it's just for that time, and then afterwards you can see it in their eyes that it's touched them. And people go, "Oh, you're amazing," and I'm like, well, actually, all I'm doing is sharing what I've seen and what the Fae have given me, and I can feel the guidance of, this is where I get back on topic, of the Fairy Queen herself, sort of standing like behind me with her hand on my shoulder, going, yeah, no, this is the right way. You go do this. This is the work that I want you to do at this point. And I can feel her here with me now, saying, and this too is part of the puzzle. It's having that balance of that playfulness, and then the direct look. Here is this experience. Here is this world, this intense seriousness that I'm so prone to. Actually, no, both halves are necessary for different people. So you asked what she is and who she is and where she fits and what fairyland is and things like that. If the Fae are the spirits of the wild untamed magic, they're the spirits of the I call it the green world, because we are part of nature. So I don't want to call it the natural world, because we are a part of that, even if we've tamed ourselves a bit and taken ourselves away from it. But if they're the spirits of that world, she's the soul of it. She's the weaver of the web, of the threads underneath it. She's the blueprint that holds it all together. She's like, she's a form of the goddess of God. She's a part of that huge divine energy. But the part of it that is very nearly physically manifest, it's imminent, It's within the world, within the natural world, within the forest. And fairyland itself is all of the frequencies, all of the parts of the energy that weave through that carry the wonder and the wildness and the magic. So you've got this web that carries it all, and she's the one that weaves the threads together. She's the consciousness that holds it all in place.
And so she can lift us up out of the stress, out of the servitude, out of our, in a way, the darkness.
Yeah.
That this world can sometimes trap us in, right? And make us think that we're less worthy, or break our hearts in some ways.
Yeah. What I've found that she tends to do is that she allows us to sink deeper into our true natures, deeper into the true nature of the world, underneath the masks, the grayness, the boxes that we've built. So the true nature of things underneath that, like roots sinking in, she helps us, she holds that space and opens it up for us to sink into, so that we can connect with that magic. And it's a subtle distinction between lifting out of and sinking into. But actually what we're doing when we work with the Fae is becoming more present, so that we can become bigger, so that we can contain more different kinds of awareness, different kinds of reality. So we're capable of holding the mundane and the harder side of things that we need to function as physical beings in the society, the culture that we've built. We're capable of sort of holding that side of ourselves while being big enough to also hold the bigger, brighter, more wild and free side, so we can walk between all of those different states.
Mm-hmm. So does she hold then our hope and inspiration? Would that be a part of that in some way?
You could say that. I think that we hold our hope and our inspiration, and she holds the space in which we can she holds the space of freedom that we hope for. She holds the space she holds the stage in which we can be inspired to express ourselves. She holds that. She holds court. She holds space. And if she's been known, I have known her to, if asked, or if a need has arisen, to tweak threads in the web of what is, to shift it into a more healed way. So if you get stuck, if you really can't find your way, you can ask her and she'll tweak those threads for you, so that you can see a chink in the darkness. So you can see a way of getting bigger rather than getting smaller. Because we tend to get small. If we're in dark places, we tend to shrink in on ourselves. If we're stuck in boxes, we get smaller, so that we feel like we've got more space. She helps us to find that bigger space.
So we fade. And so what you're saying is kind of like, she'll help hold the space for us to power up and really shine and be who we really truly are in all our glory, right? In all of our ta-da-ness. If there is such a word as ta-da-ness, but
and I there are some people for whom she's not she's there, and she is what she is, and she does these things for and can do these things for many people, but not everyone feels the same resonance with the fairy realm, because we're not all quite the same, are we? So for some people, it's actually they need a different route. But for many people, I found that actually this resonates and works wonders, because we're part of the natural world, and that's where she lives.
A lot of what you write in your book reminds me too of the Lakota teachings, the Native American teachings, as well as that that nature has a heart too, that it's alive and vital and right there waiting for you to have a relationship with it. So
Oh, excellent. I don't know much about Lakota teachings, or I investigated sort of modern neo-shamanics when I was starting out, and it felt very relevant. But being British, being here, I tried to work more with the land here.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think that ultimately we all come to the same or very similar, because even though it's expressed slightly differently, because the lands that we're on and the heritage that we carry with us and the culture that we're in, that shapes how we relate to these things. But ultimately, underneath it all, it's all heart. It's all the heart of the world.
And can you? I noticed the. Can you give us a prayer to the Fairy Queen if there's some of the listeners that do feel this and do feel like they have an aha moment, that they opened up something that they were not aware that it was there, or were afraid to, but now after listening to you, they're they're looking at how do they create this magic that you're talking about this
Sure.
wondrous world that you're actually offering today, that it's like a child's world, the innocence, like sometimes you can have that innocence taken away, and
Yeah.
and so you were kind of bringing that innocence, that play back, that magic part back, that is unbridled, it is free, and does resonate in our heart, and then connection with the heart that resonates in nature and in the fairy realms.
Yeah, most of when I talk, when I pray, I generally use the inspiration of the moment. So I do have a set prayer that I use personally, but it's very specific to me. So actually, it's helpful for people to find their own words and their own way of expressing it, because it's important. It's very important when you're dealing with the fairy, be as honest as you're to be. Truthfulness is important, and part of that is because it shows to them, if they can tell if you're not being truthful, and if you're not being truthful. And what that does is internally, if you're not being truthful, then your own subconscious and your deep parts come to not trust what you say. And the same with the Fae. They know that if you're not being truthful, they're like, well, we're not. Why should we trust you? Whereas if you are always as truthful as you can be, then every word becomes a spell. Everything that you say becomes an enchantment. It becomes a thing that is true. So you find what needs to be true, and you can make it true by saying it, because everything that you say is true. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but and
Yeah.
it takes courage. It takes great courage to live a life like that, because you got to be on it, right, and in it, and you're out of the illusion or out of the dream state in that way. So you're responsible.
Yes,
To
you
actually
are
become
completely
more
responsible.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and it means that you can't do something thinking, well, no one will know because I'll just lie about it. You lose the ability to be able to think like that, which some people find very confusing. And I've had people. I have always tried to live like this. I was brought up to be entirely truthful. It sort of, I find it very, very difficult to lie, which has gotten me in trouble on occasion. But it also means that sometimes people just don't believe you. They're just like, well, no, you must be lying, because I'd be lying in that situation. So you must be lying. You can't.
Yeah,
And I'm like, well, no, actually, if I have to be truthful, then I have to live my life as to the best of my ability, as integrated intentionally as possible, because I'm responsible for what I do and I can't hide from the consequences. But that's that the reason I'm talking about this is because it goes back to that, the necessity of finding the words that are right for you, when you're saying these things. So I can offer you a few words to start with, but from there, it's best if you use, and it can be very, very, very simple. So if you want to make a prayer to the Fairy Queen, or the Fairy King for that matter, he's a very good guide. I fully recommend going and meeting him if you so desire. Do you know Brian Froud's Fairy Oracle?
I do. I bought his deck, and it had just came out fresh off the press when I was in Glastonbury. So I do have his Fairy Oracle book. I love them. I love them.
They are gorgeous. They are perfect. I think they're one of the best expressions. Yeah. But in that deck, himself, the card himself, and if you search for it online, it comes up, this card himself, and just looking at that, I'm like, yeah, that's the energy, that's the being that is the Fairy King. That's himself. So if you start for a prayer very, very simply with taking a breath and feeling your body, feeling yourself where you are, and trying to just take a moment to give yourself some calm. And this isn't always possible, but you take a moment to try and give yourself some calm. And you feel then what it is that you truly wish for, you truly need, you truly hope for. And just breathe into that feeling, and then you start as simply as, Queen of Fairy, I need your help. Queen of Fairy, please guide me. Show me the way. Or you call to the king. Call to himself. Lord of Fairy, help me. Show me the path to walk. And you ask for what you need. And you can keep it as simple as you like. And it's that feeling that you relax, you sink into yourself and open and ask with honesty and with true feeling. And from there, the possibility of connection, of an answer can come.
Thank you. So come with honesty. And I in your book that you wrote about Honest Thomas.
Oh, yes. Yes.
and using him. Yeah.
So True Thomas, he was actually a historical figure, and the subject, it was originally a romance, and then in the 17 or 1800s, I think it was the 1700s, it became a ballad, and it's the ballad that people often know, and the images in it actually take you through a journey to fairyland. But one of the key things in it is that when he goes to fairyland, so at the very, very beginning, he encounters the Queen of Fairy. He's asleep under, they think it's a hawthorn tree, most often by the banks of a river, so very specific place. And a lady on a beautiful white horse turns up, and she's absolutely shining gorgeous. And he says, "Oh, you must be the Queen of Heaven." And she said, "Oh, no, Thomas, that's not me. That's not my name. I'm the Queen of Elfheim, so the Queen of Fairy, the home of the elves." And it's very important that it's the right name. It's a true expression of who she is. And then he is told when he goes to Fairy that he must not speak for 7 years, which means he can't deceive. He cannot actually make a deception. There may be other things there. He can't use his words to influence things. It could just be for him that was a great challenge because he was a poet. But then when he comes back, he is gifted with beautiful shoes, and a tongue that cannot lie. And in some versions of the story, he says, "Oh no, I don't want that. Don't give me that. That's too great a burden to bear." And she's like, "Well, no, you've earned it. You've got it now." And he becomes not only a poet but a prophet. So he not only can't lie in the moment, but everything that he says about the future then comes true. And that shows something very essential to me about the nature of fairyland and our relationship to those energies and the power of words. It's sound carried on the breath of life. So we breathe in, and we're breathing in life and connection that we share. We share our breath with the plants. We breathe in what they breathe out. We breathe out what they breathe in, very simply. And so when we speak, we're breathing out that magic, that connection with intention and with words. Yeah, and that's enchantment.
Mm-hmm. And so it doesn't have to rhyme. I have that old,
Nope.
Like if I'm going to be speaking, I must be speaking in a poetic way or in a rhyming way, or it doesn't work. Is that a total myth, or does that help maybe elevate the energies or the connection?
I know what you're saying. So it doesn't have to rhyme. It doesn't have to have any kind of rhythm or anything to it. The reason things are often written in rhyme, and with a sort of a regular rhythm to them, is because it helps to lull your mind into the right sort of state. So a certain rhythm with a rhyme on it will help lull you into a kind of a trance state, which opens you up to be more receptive. And it makes it easier to remember if it's something that is passed down and shared orally. It needs to be memorable. And rhyme is easier to remember. But
I'd break in for a second. We do have a couple. Just letting you know.
We do.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But to just finish that thought, if you're doing it with intention and with feeling, then you're carrying that anyway. And if you're doing it just for yourself, then you don't have to take other people along for the ride with you. So you can be much more direct and keep it much simpler.
Wonderful. Thank you for that. And hello, caller. Welcome to the show.
605, are you there?
I am.
Can you speak up, please?
Hello.
Yep, I sure can. Can you hear me now?
Better, yes.
Okay. This is Michelle.
Hi, Michelle. Halo, this is Michelle, and you're on today because of a special request from Michelle and wanting to explore the fairy realm. So it's wonderful that you two get to connect today.
Oh, bless you. Thank you, Michelle.
So, Michelle, did you have a question for Halo?
Hello?
Yes.
Hello.
Oh, I don't know what's going on. Okay, I'm glad you can hear me. Yes, I am very much resonating with everything, and Barbara, you asked such good questions. I hope this isn't silly, but I was wondering, when my children and I walk around, in the forest especially, we find like knots in the trees, and I've always told them that that's where fairies live, and that's the doorway to a fairy's house that we can't see, but they're there. And I was just wondering how you felt about that.
So I really love things like that, and because those are actually spaces that allow us to feel that connection. They let us have that sense that opens up us to the connection of and with the fairy folk and the fairy magic. So anything like that it might feel silly if you start to sort of analyze it and think about it, but fairies aren't as literal as we are. They're very, very real. They're very, very present. And but it's that those spaces that allow us to connect with them, that allow us to be inspired, to think of them, certainly, definitely, that is a place that you will find them living.
Awesome. I don't know what it is. I don't believe I heard it in the and you do see it in books and stuff. But some trees just literally look like a house for a fairy, you know?
Yeah, very much so. And it's quite possible that they've shaped them that way to remind us of their presence. I certainly wouldn't rule it out.
I love that. And I just very much connect with what you said, especially with the high vibrational stuff. I don't know what my question is exactly, but what is it about them that they carry the high vibration? Is it because they did inhabit Earth before us? They were here when it was natural?
Mm-hmm. Okay. So for me, the height of the vibrations isn't necessarily a positive or a negative thing. So we span quite a few different parts of that frequency, and we can allow ourselves to get trapped in the lower vibrations and forget about the higher vibrations, because we've this very solid physical existence, which, let me just say, I love and is absolutely divine and gorgeous and the best thing since sliced bread. But the Fae they're not physical spirits. So yes, that will mean that they live more in those higher vibrations. They can't get distracted by the physical, but they do ever so slightly overlap with them. So that's where they overlap with the physical end of the spectrum. So that's where they start to manifest and connect with us. And they've got connections to the physical world. They're very place place specific. So those trees that are shaped like homes, they have a strong connection with those trees. There'll be certain spirits that live with those trees, and together the collection of spirits that live in those different trees make up the forest. Like a collection of bees will make up the hive. But that sort of frequency is, it's simply because that's where they exist on the spectrum.
So it's like the family of that particular land. Like
They often. Yeah, not all of them are actually connected to specific land places, and this is where it's interesting, because fairies as a group of spirits it covers quite a large range of types of spirits, but they all feel to me to be of this kind of range of frequencies, and generally they have a great love of the physical, even though they aren't physical.
And if we were to bring them, let's say if Michelle and her children wanted to bring them a gift, what would be some of the gifts that you would suggest to put by the fairy door, or would they put it on a certain time or place, or can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So times like dusk or dawn that are between times are times that we find it particularly easy to sense them. So it's not that they're more present then, it's just that it's easier for us to sense them and to be aware of them. So those are good times. Places that are in between, again, for the same reason, it allows us to slip between the awarenesses, and to sense them better. So the best kinds of things to offer are things that are going to either feed the land because they love it so, and it's part of their thing. So milk and honey are good things. Anything that's going to biodegrade into the land, or anything like a song or a poem or a story that you can tell to the trees and the birds and the animals that are listening, because the other creatures of the land enjoy the things that we create. They enjoy those things. If we tell them with love, then they feel that. And the Fae love those things as well, and they love when we are caring for the land and the beings that they care for.
There's a tradition of tying a ribbon on a tying a ribbon on a tree branch, or yes.
I'm going to drop you and pick you right up again, okay?
Okay.
That happens.
Yeah, that's okay.
There's only one way to solve it. Barbara, can you put yourself green? You're showing yellow. You're showing offline.
Oh no.
That's all right. I'm gonna call her anyway. See if I can't.
Okay.
Yeah, you're fine now.
Hear me now. Thank you, Patrick.
Better.
Welcome.
So
you were talking about tying ribbons and things to trees?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That is a traditional. It is a traditional way of making offerings. The only thing to be cautious of with those is that you use ones that will either degrade, or you tie them in such a way that they're not going to restrict the growth of the tree. So, because obviously as a tree grows, as its branches grow bigger, it can be that where the ribbons and things have been tied, it can cut into the tree, and if it's over quite a young branch, so it's got a lot of growing to do, then that can end up cutting the branch basically off and killing the branch. So if you're going to do that, you want to do it with something preferably that's going to degrade over time, that isn't going to leave plastic threads everywhere. So synthetic ribbon isn't good, but strips of cotton is good. That's what would have been traditionally have been used, because that will break down if it gets blown around and taken away. And if you tie it in places where it's either already grown quite well, or where it's a sort of place like around a leaf, the stalk of a leaf or a twig that's going to come off, then you know it's not going to hurt the tree over time. So it's just being aware of those sorts of things and thinking about it. Obviously, we can't know the consequences of everything, but they do appreciate, the Fae definitely appreciate when we've made an effort, and when we've done the best that we can. So if you think it through, then you're most likely to have a good experience. Does that answer your question? Sorry, Barbara.
Oh, yes. Wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm just seeing that Michelle's children, like making pictures for the fairies, and you could roll them up in a tiny. Do they like the little tiny things? I always think of a little tiny scroll, that you tie a little ribbon and put at the base of the tree, in biodegradable, or having a relationship like that with
things
them.
like that. The amount of joy that goes into making them, and the tiny things we fill with so much joy, because it feels so playful, and we fill it with all that joyful energy, even if we're not doing it intentionally. We're so happy making it that they really like that. And that's a good kind of gift. And you can make a little altar or a little shrine, a space for them in your home that you can leave pictures for them on there. And
I love that idea. I love that.
Yeah.
It's in your book as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's in your Pagan Portals, your Fairy Magic. And building an altar, and it doesn't have to be like a ta-da altar. It can be like a simple altar, right? It doesn't have to be grandiose or huge or take over the whole room or something like that.
Exactly, like with the prayers, if it comes from your heart, it comes from your space, your truth. You make it as simple or as complex as you want, as small or as big as you like, or as you have space for, and by making space for their magic and their enchantment in your home, you're inviting them in a positive way to build a relationship with. And when you go out and you take things into the woods and you leave them milk, you can leave them cookies if you want, but don't leave chocolate chip cookies, because they get eaten by animals that are poisoned by chocolate. But yeah, things like that, you can take them out there. You're then taking them gifts, but if you make space for them in your home, then you're also inviting them in. And as long as you invite them in with that intention of working together well, then they will start to bring that energy of enchantment in, and they'll start to come in and look after you and help you and support you in being inspired, in being creative, in finding that magic, and in never losing it. And I think it's wonderful what you're doing with your children. You're taking them out and you're showing them the homes of the fae, and you're keeping them, helping them to keep that magic, because it's so easy to lose it when you get older. And the adults that did that for me when I was young, I treasure those. I treasure those memories, and that made such a difference for me. So yeah, you're doing really amazing work with your kids. Lovely.
Thank you. Everything you say, I'm just really starting to see the consciousness of them and how they are, not of the human realm, and they have their own morals that they follow by, and that's how I feel I am. So that's wonderful that I can have their support. I'm like, wow, I really feel that. And it's so funny that you mentioned that, Barbara, because I'm like obsessed with little things. Like when you have like a big coffee maker, but then there's like the little ones, or like I clean homes and I found a little toy vacuum that are little. I'm obsessed with them. I'm like, oh my God, this is so cute and adorable. So now when I see that, I'm going to connect to them, because I think that's part of it. Like you said, it sparks that feeling in me and that playfulness in me, and I really enjoy it. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is really awesome. And it's that thing, we've got to some degree have the masks and the tools to interact with the everyday world, with the culture and the society that we've built. But we can also really enjoy being in the physical world that we've chosen to incarnate in. We're here to experience life, and those of us that are listening are most likely very lucky in that we're probably in quite good positions compared to a lot of the world to actually enjoy that, and we may as well make the most of it. But we've still got, we can have those tools then to interface with the mundane sort of 9-to-5 work-a-day grey world, as I think of it, while still keeping the memory of having our green, our wild, untamed hearts, our fairy selves, and knowing who we truly are underneath them, so that those masks and those tools remain masks and tools, and we don't confuse them for being ourselves. And I think that's something that's really important to remember. And I can hear that you're doing that beautifully already for you and for your children.
Oh, thank you. Curiosity, gnomes. Do you have any relationship with gnomes?
With gnomes specifically, not as much as with others, though I have encountered them. They're there a lot, but the beings that I tend to have more conversations with do tend to be the sort of the elves, for lack of a better word, dryads, river spirits, and the goblins for some reason. Goblins, hello. And they're really lovely. They're really friendly, very playful. The goblins are. They've got negative rap. It reminds me that there is a darker side to fairy, but that doesn't mean that it's evil. It's just a bit cheeky. And there are the wilder bits that you sort of, even the goblins go, no, don't go there. There are wild wolves there, don't go there. But yeah, gnomes, they sort of, for me, when I encounter them, they seem to be getting on with their work. They're busy getting on with whatever it is that they're doing, building, creating, keeping the earth well. So those spirits don't talk to me personally as much. But I know other people who they do. People who do have very strong relationships with them, and who are very tactile people who do a lot of building with their hands often. So I know that they do work with humans. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I believe in the fairy realm, but it's hard, and so I'm just kind of getting all my basics out here. When that Trolls movie came out, I loved it. I thought it was amazing, and I saw so much truth in it.
I haven't watched it yet.
You see the Trolls. It's wonderful.
Okay.
And they have a song in there that
definitely.
talks about light, and it's definitely connected to like the light. And being happy and loving the land, and I thought that movie was fabulous, and I thought I like these Trolls. So I'm guessing it's kind of the same thing. It's also very real and
yeah.
Well, we're in a good place here, I think. Thank you so much, Halo, for coming on the show today and taking us on the guided walk to the fairy realm and showing us a guide there and our prayer to the fairy and having a relationship with the fairy queen and about the trance magic as a vehicle to explore these realms and in protecting ourselves too when we do go in search of the fae, that we go in a protected way. And so they can reach you by contacting your website at aworldenchanted.com.
That's right.
Correct?
And there's
or is that
.com.
.net? Oh, it's .com. Okay.
.com.
aworldenchanted.com. And then your Goblin Circus?
That's the Goblin Circus .com.
Okay.
So, but that's connected to you can get to everything that I do from aworldenchanted.com. That also links to my more personal blog where I've got things about dancing and whatever's going on in my head going on in there. Periodically, I go through phases where I write a lot and then phases where I'm too busy with the fairies and studies and things. The only thing that I did forget to say while we were doing the trance journey is that once you've gone and you come back, if you want to go back to there, then you can use the image of the rose that you were handed to help guide you. So if you hold on to that, that will take you down the same route that you went before. Because obviously the spirit realms, the astral, the energetic planes, they're very, very big. There's a lot of different spaces and things up there. So that will help key you into that particular path and that particular journey to get you back to that same place.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay.
There we go. Thank you.
Fantastic. Well, you'll have to keep us apprised of your journeys, and we'll have to talk next time about what you're doing and what you're up to and what you're creating in the fairy realms. Thank you so much, Halo. And thanks, Michelle, for calling in and for all the listeners. And you can go to my Facebook page, The Cosmic Oracle Show, and you can see we have Misha Johnson coming up next week. So stay tuned for that. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
Halo.
Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message. Welcome to Revolution Radio, where you, the listeners, are in charge. Here at Revolution Radio, we present 48 broadcast hours of news and information each and every day. Revolution Radio never sleeps. Revolution Radio is worldwide and borderless information. Revolution Radio is also commercial free. Revolution Radio is supported 100% by you, the listeners. And that's why we appeal to you to donate and support this station and its expenses. You can support us in many available options like archive subscriptions, our seed pack selections, or even my woodworking store. And we also even have Revolution Radio's swag at the Revolution Radio Zazzle store, which you can get t-shirts, coffee cups, even a baby onesie. Or you can just plain donate to the cause. We cannot continue without your support, and your support is what helps pay the bills. So please, if you wish us to continue, please stop by our station support page and drop a dime on us. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.